So my name is Kiki Zinoviadou and I am the Dean of Perrotis College of the American Farm School. I'm a food scientist by studies and I have been involved in the olive sector for quite some years now. I'm interested in all food commodities, of course, as a food scientist, and olive oil is a very important product for Greece as well. But I took some sensory analysis classes back in 2012, if I remember well, and since then, of course, I fell more in love with olive oil. But after that, my interest progressed into the correlation of the agronomic practices, but also the practices in the olive mill with olive oil quality and, of course, the organoleptic characteristics. Now, olive oil is, as a product, it's a very sustainable product because the olive tree itself, actually, the leaves of the olive tree never fall. So in that respect, is a tree that it photosynthesizes all over the year. So because of that, it's considered to be a very, very sustainable tree. And olive oil, it's a very sustainable product. It's also sustainable because for its production, of extra virgin olive oil and virgin olive oil, we don't have any processing involved apart from the mechanical pressing, which is just a mechanical processing. Lately, we see that as far as packaging material is concerned, we see that there is a big interest in producing packaging material that is more sustainable. So either that the material, it's not petroleum-based, if we talk about plastics, and also that it's more and more important to use material that is biodegradable. So now we see that some alternative materials have been developed, and at the same time, it's very important to utilize the byproducts of the food industry because some of them can actually become in the future raw materials for the production of packaging. As far as the thing about diffusion is concerned, unfortunately, when we use plastics and some other materials, when they come in contact with the food product, there is a high probability that some substances can diffuse from the packaging to the product. And in some cases, some of these substances can be actually carcinogenic or in general can have some bad effects for our human body. That's why the legislation is very, very strict on that. And there are quite a lot of limits. But of course, in some cases, there are cases that these limits are exceeded. That's why it's very important to make sure that this, apart from the quality characteristics of the olive oil, we also do a lot of chemical analysis in trying to identify these substances. We can split actually substances into two big categories, the ones that are more easily dissolved into aqueous phases and the ones that are more easily dissolved into organic phases. So this type of substances can be diffused in olive oil, and since olive oil is hydrophobic, and these are the substances that can easily, especially the plasticizer, move from the packaging material into the olive oil. So there are some novel materials that are, as I mentioned, it's important to be more sustainable. So an interesting concept is the use of PLA. PLA is a biopolymer, stands for polylactic acid. So it's a polymer it's made from lactic acid, and it's becoming a more and more popular alternative to plastic. So it's considered to be a bioplastic because, first of all, it comes from natural ingredients, and also it can be compostable, biodegradable. Sustainability, of course, is the topic of a lot of conferences nowadays because we face a lot of challenges. So first of all, we see that there is a great increase in the world population. So that means that we will have to produce more food in order to cover the needs of all these people, and of course to make sure that regarding food security, that food and water is available to everyone all over the planet. Of course, that would be ideal. And but at the same time, due to the climate crisis, due to the climate change, we have a lot of challenges regarding agriculture. So as some of the excellent researchers mentioned, there is now we see more phenomena of extreme drought periods, and then we have extreme weather conditions. So in general, this is something that, of course, it's very, let's say, can be harmful to agriculture. We may get hail that may result in big losses. So it's this paradox that on one hand we need more food and feed, of course, and water, but on the other hand, it's less predictable, let's say, to reassure the production. So it is time to really consider more sustainable practices because the future is very, very challenging. The resources are getting less and less, and at the same time the needs are increasing. the olive sector is a sector that the demands are increasing. I mean, we see that because of the health benefits of olive oil, it's becoming more and more popular. So we have an increase in demand. The production itself can become more sustainable, so we can have more wise use of all the resources regarding water, but also, of course, fertilizers and all the inputs. They have to be optimized and to use as little as possible, so that can make the production sustainable. And at the same time, we can we can apply new practices like the concept of regenerative agriculture. So that means that we can use cover crops in order to make sure that we can retain a rich soil and at the same time keep the moisture on the soil. Also, we can improve the conditions in the olive mill itself, but of course it is important to train the producers but also the millers, because they are very crucial stakeholders in the production chain, to make sure that they get the appropriate training. Each variety has its own needs regarding, let's say, irrigation, and the thing is that also each one of the varieties has a different demand in what we call chill hours. So the olive tree, in order to be productive, has to go through some called chill hours during the winter, and there is a big difference in varieties for that. Usually, the olive trees, when they come from a specific country, means that they have been adapted to the climate there. But because of the climate change, we see that even some local varieties now are suffering because the conditions have changed. And we have knowledge, but the response of those to the climate change, the knowledge that we have is limited because things are happening so quickly that it's very difficult to follow and to study. So apart from the olive oil, the olive tree also, the olive fruit can be used for the production of table olives, and there are some varieties that are more, let's say, suitable for that because they have more flesh, because olive oil can be produced even from really, really small olive fruits, but for the production of table olives, we need larger olive fruits. So the nutritional value of the table olives can also be really high as long as we treat them as naturally as possible. So the optimum would be that they are naturally debearded, so that we just put them in brine and then a process of fermentation is followed. If we just do this natural process, we manage to maintain a high level of bioactives such as the phenols, but also these products can be, the table olives can be an excellent carrier of potential probiotic microorganisms, so microorganisms that are very, very good for our gut health. And it's an excellent alternative also for vegans and vegans, because usually probiotics are found in dairy products, but of course vegans cannot consume that. So the table olives, like fermented vegetables, it's an excellent alternative. There are 3 types of processing according to the International Olive Council. It's the Spanish style, in which there is some treatment in the beginning with a lye and then the natural fermentation. The Greek style, where the whole process is natural, so the debittering and also the fermentation, and then it's the Californian style that unfortunately is very invasive. So in the end, they are oxidized, this is how the color is developed, and then in the end they are sterilized. That means that they're boiled. So they go through extreme heat treatment, and that results in a big reduction in nutrients, also in flavor and the sensorial characteristics. They are a bit chewy. And of course, all the positive, the beneficial microorganisms are killed.